Nope.
Yesterday, I was celebrating a family member's birthday when I received a call from an aunt of mine. I hadn't talked to her in probably 5 or so years, so I was quite surprised when I heard her voice on the other line. Right away, I noticed she seemed off, like something was bothering her, so I asked what was wrong. And this is what she told me. "Kevin, I have to tell you something, and I know that you will believe me. I know you have had some paranormal things happen in your life, and I can't quite explain what's going on with me. It's really scaring me, so can you just listen for a minute?" She spoke with an unmistakable sadness in her voice. "Of course, fire away," I said, retreating into my laundry room for some privacy. It was then that she began to relay to me her horrifying experiences. "My friend Diane came over about a month ago. She seemed very distressed and told me she hadn't been sleeping well because something had happened to her in the middle of the night. She went on to tell me these terrifying events, and I have to admit, after she left, I felt a little creeped out to stay home alone. As much as I tried, I couldn't get my mind off of the things that she told me. When it hit nighttime, I still didn't feel comfortable, so I decided to take a sleeping tablet to help me fall asleep. It worked, but not for long. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to an eerie, silent house. I could hear the tick of my clock in the living room, but nothing else. I didn't feel like I was alone, but deep down, I knew it was just from what Diane told me earlier. So I rolled over to try and get back to sleep, and that's when I first noticed it. There was this heavy pressure on the other side of my bed, like someone was laying next to me. I've been a widow for 4 years, and I don't live with anyone, Kevin. No animals or anything. This sent ice-cold shivers down my spine, and my heart was racing so bad I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I let out a little squeal because the tapping surprised me. It was after that tapping that my fears were confirmed. I felt the bed lift as whatever it was got out of my bed. Then the soft shuffle of very strange sounding footsteps leaving my room. It's like they were slowly dragging their feet. I laid there and started weeping because I was beyond terrified. I thought whoever it was had left, so I slowly peeked my head over at my door to see if I can see anything. At first it was nothing, just my dark living room with a slight glow from the street lamp outside. But then I saw it. It ran very quickly past my bedroom door toward my kitchen. It was huge, Kevin. Maybe 7 feet tall, I don't know. I could hear my aunt's voice shaking at this point. Then he ran again, back the other way. I was paralyzed in fear. It looked like he had his arms behind him, like he was running too fast and his arms couldn't keep up, just dangling behind him. They were very long too. I slowly covered my head and tears were running down my face. I was so scared. Then I heard that same shuffling of that thing coming back into my room. The pressure came back on my bed as he laid down next to me. I was so afraid I couldn't move. The exhaustion from the adrenaline must have kicked in, because next thing I knew, I was awake, and it was morning. I slowly looked next to me, and there was nothing there. Nothing at all. I felt a little relieved, so I got out of bed, and for some stupid reason, I chalked it up to being a very vivid nightmare. After all, these things don't really happen to people, right? Around 6:30 p.m., I felt tired again and relaxed on my chair. Eventually, I dozed off watching television. I woke up and it was the middle of the night. I looked at the clock on the living room wall, and once again, it was about 2 in the morning. Immediately, my heart began to race. All of the events from the prior night came racing back into my head, and I sat there in silence. That's when I noticed the TV was off. I was sure I had left it on, but I wasn't entirely sure, so I tried to calm myself. All I could think was how quiet it was, and that once again something felt very wrong. It was that same tapping noise from last night, and I knew, somehow just knew, not to move or make a sound. I heard my bed creak, and that same shuffling noise as it came into the living room with me. I kept one eye slightly open and looked into the reflection of the TV, and I could not believe what I saw coming out of my room. Again, it was huge, just like the night before. It just stood there and looked over my way before it took off and ran into the kitchen. Then it came back into the living room and once again back to the kitchen. I silently wept again. This was ungodly terrifying. After a few laps, he stood a little way behind my chair, and I could see him in the reflection of the TV taking these giant, exaggerated tiptoe steps right behind me. He smelled so awful, like a dead deer carcass. In the reflection, I could see him getting right up to my face, only about an inch away. He began to smile, this nasty, disgusting grin at me. He knew I was awake and knew I was watching him. And that's when he whispered in my ear,
"2 more nights."
Then he slowly shuffled back into my room, and I heard the bed creak again as it laid back down. I stayed up the whole night, jumping at every board creaking or any noise whatsoever. It was the longest night of my life. When finally morning came, I jumped up and called Diane as quick as I could. She began to sob and apologize to me repeatedly. I asked her why she was apologizing, and she told me the reason I was experiencing this was because of her. Apparently, if you tell someone about this thing, it senses it. It passes it on and leaves you alone until it gets bored. Then it comes back. I'm so sorry, Kevin. I'm so sorry that I told you this, but I didn't know what else to do. At this point, my aunt began to cry hysterically. I asked her why the hell she would tell me this, and basically, she told me she can't live in fear anymore. She also said all I would have to do is tell someone else about it and I would be fine. Honestly, I don't even know if this is real, but I do work the night shift. There's no pretending to be asleep for me. But if this is real, and somehow I just passed this on to you, I apologize. Just pretend that you're asleep and pray he doesn't hurt you. Hello, dear listener. Thank you for joining me in this week's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to smack that like button down below and subscribe for future videos if you have not done so already. Now, if anybody's freaking out from the ending of this story, guys, I'm sure it's not real. But if it is and you are visited by the Midnight Man, go ahead and let me know what happens, and maybe I can put together like a compilation video of people's experiences. Just an idea. You know, you gotta turn negatives into positives sometimes. With that said, everybody, stay safe out there. I'll be seeing you in the next video.